So what up, y'all? This vlog, I'm going to talk about chapter 11. Chapter 11 basically discusses how to serve your audience a story that has compelling facts. Like, say if your story has multiple different sources and they give multiple viewpoints on the story and different things like that then confuse the truth a little. So how do you go about compelling the story to an audience? So the chapter starts off by saying a student journalist set out to write a light enterprise feature about a children's swimming program. She discovered additional angles to the story from those she first had imagined. The young reporter considered all of the information she had collected and then wrestled with how best to present the story fairly and accurately without causing harm. So, in a sense, I don't feel like this is too hard of a task to do unless it's a very touchy subject, like say if it's something about somebody that's super important or something that may be defaming somebody's character. I think that's where it may be a little harder to pick and choose what facts to put in the story. But when it comes to her making a story about a kid's swimming class, it shouldn't be that hard. It just goes on to say the first part of the chapter was basically, just describing the situation. Her name was Becky. She was a graduating senior and had been writing news stories for a while when she faced a dilemma. She wrote for the student newspaper, The Chronicle, and the Pine Hills blog, a site for journalism students, and a few other things. The public regularly reads the stories on the blog and often responds posted comments. So from what I'm seeing, she was, pretty well known in her town, and people were giving her feedback and responding back to her things. And I feel like as a blogger, if somebody responds back to your blogs and different things like that, I feel like you're making an impact for sure. Because last semester, I can't remember what class I took, but I had to write blogs. It was another PR class. I think it was like a PR media class. And so since it was online and it was a directed study, I had to make a blog. I had to make a social media, and I had to, come up with posts and everything. And surprisingly, after I posted it and turned it in for a class grade, people started, responding to it. Surprised. So as the chapter continued to go on, it basically says how eventually Becky sat down with her notes and her photographs, and she came back to her laptop, and she was just in a predicament, and she was confused on how to write the story. She had emailed her editor teacher. She basically said the swimming program didn't resemble one in which she was familiar with, but I don't know how swimming programs could be so different. She said the children came from different demographics. She was not prepared for dueling opinions, dueling opinion sources shared with her, and then about the program's strengths and weaknesses. And honestly, I feel like since she had so many sources and so much to go off of, it was kind of easy because you could make it a rounded story, a well-rounded story. So basically, you could do it by age group and not necessarily by gender, or by race or ethnicity. And then, like I said, you could also do it by gender, so male or female. So honestly, I feel like she was just thinking a little too hard on it. She didn't know whether to include some things or just include everything. But when it comes to something like that, you could, like I said, summarize it, break it down easier, and put everything into one or more categories like male or female and age range and stuff. So the chapter just goes on and it talks about how she solved the problem and how she went about it and how she basically did what I said and took certain things from certain sources and compiled it into one story. So overall, throughout this chapter, I've been in this situation before when it came to writing a news story, because in my news writing class, my sophomore year at Valdosta, we had to write news stories based on information he gave us on made-up stories in Valdosta, and it would be so much information I wouldn't know where to start. But it was a good, start to news writing because it introduced me to how to, introduced me to narrowing down stuff for stories, but still getting the point across. So overall, this chapter basically summed up one class that I took sophomore year. There you go.